Oh, Abigail. Seems like Mr. Hamilton and the rest of his cronies have done us in. They've certainly affected the way that I'll be remembered. Or the fact that I won't be remembered. Abigail, I wish you were still around so I could tell you what's on my mind. You were always my best friend. You're always my closest advisor, even though you were my wife. I could always trust you and talk to you about everything. But the way that I'll be remembered, I just don't know. You know, I've been loyal to this country. I've been loyal since the very beginning. Wanted to be a farmer, wanted to be everything under the sun. And my dad decided I should go to school. You remember that. I told you how I ended up in the top 3 at Harvard. Only after some rough days with my father, though. Could have been a minister, but I didn't have the temperament for it. Or the temper that I had kept me from being a minister. But they said that my temper, along with the way that I could argue, and boy could I argue, made me perfect to be a lawyer. Abby, you were there. I mean, I lost that first case on a technicality, but I studied hard. I did everything. I mean, I was there from the beginning of this country, clear back even before we became a country, during the French and Indian War. France and the natives. I didn't even get to go ahead and fight. Some people, I was worried whether somebody was going to call me a coward. And that's the problem. When you know a lot, they send you back and forth with all the paperwork, and I ran messages. But, you know, after that war, they decided we were going to pay for it over here. The colonists, all of us, were going to go ahead and pay for the war. And they decided to leave troops right here to make sure that we didn't go into the hostile lands, and the hostiles would be kept out of our lands. And I think it was also to go ahead and make sure we paid the bills. I wrote paper after paper on that. Taxation without representation is exactly what I called it. There's no way that we would have the rights of Englishmen unless we had someone in England representing us while we paid those taxes. Oh, they took all the taxes away except for the tax on tea, and Sam Adams and the boys had some fun with that tea, didn't they, Abby? It's been a long, long climb. But you know, Abigail, I was for the rights of Americans and for the rights of others on our soil. I even defended those soldiers at the Boston Massacre. I spoke out on their behalf, and Abigail, I won. I was the most hated politician and the most hated lawyer in Massachusetts. But I was also one of the most respected, to the point where, you remember, they asked me to go serve at the Continental Congress. Oh, I met some of the best and the brightest minds in our country, and we fought and we argued. I was one of the best at arguing. Seems to me I could get people to listen when I spoke. In fact, if I'm ever remembered for anything, and I do wonder how I will be remembered, I think one of my greatest accomplishments was naming that tall, wonderful Virginian, George Washington, to represent us and to lead the Continental Army. I think that's one of the best things that I did, because he could get people to follow him. And that they did. And then I raised money and got Congress to support them, to give money for the troops and for ammunition and to buy the things that they needed for our soldiers to fight that war. And another accomplishment, his fellow Virginian, Thomas Jefferson. I was the one, Abigail, who went ahead and supported his writing a Declaration of Independence. It wasn't even going to be a declaration until the vote came, but we wanted to have it written just in case. And he was a lot better with words, and he was less argumentative than I was, too, so people were bound to be able to listen to what he had to say. So when it came time that all 13 states ratified the fact that we would declare our independence, Jefferson was the one to write it. Oh, and his words were eloquent, too. But it's Jefferson that'll be remembered for that, not me. Well, the fighting continued. We needed money, so I was asked by the Congress to go to France. They sent me to France to negotiate for troops, to negotiate for money, to get a peace alliance with France to try to help us out. But I don't think that I'll be remembered for that either. Benjamin Franklin made it there before me, and Benjamin Franklin was well known by the French people, probably due to all of his inventions, and all of his science, and all his love for the ladies. And the French court, he was one of the most popular people there. But he wasn't getting anything done, in my opinion. And I let people hear it. Once again, I was told that I was antisocial, that I had a bad disposition, but somebody had to keep track of the paperwork. Somebody had to go ahead and write it down. Somebody had to get the details done. Somebody had to be concerned with the money. Well, I took that on myself. But yet, when all was said and done, Congress made Benjamin Franklin the minister to France. Once again, Abigail, I don't think that that's what I'll be remembered for. Took some side trips too, though. I did go to the Netherlands. Of course, that was on my own too. And people back home, once again, said that I was always stepping out of line. But I did eventually get the Netherlands to go ahead. The Dutch went ahead and they recognized our country. They even loaned us money to go ahead and help support our cause. And when it was time that the war was at its conclusion, I was asked to go back to France again to help write the treaty. The Treaty of Paris, it was to be called. But Benjamin Franklin and John Jay get the credit. They're the ones who were remembered the most. So then, you were with me on that one, Abigail, when we went to the court of St. James in England. I got to appear before the king.